husband needed to change. I was wrong. What actually changed our marriage is when I stopped trying to fix him and started facing what I was bringing into our home. And that was probably the hardest thing as a wife that I had to realize. Literally the hardest truth as a wife that I had to swallow. Because it's easier to point out what your spouse is doing wrong, than to admit that it's your own habits that might be starving the marriage too. So here are 3 things that I had to stop doing before my marriage could heal. 1, I stopped correcting everything. I thought that if I was pointing out every little thing that he could do better, I was making our marriage stronger. Wrong. Constant correction, it does not inspire a man. It exhausts him. A husband who constantly feels managed, will stop engaging altogether. So I had to start asking myself, does this need correction or does it need grace? And that question changed everything. 2, I stopped making my feelings his responsibility. I used to expect him to fix every frustration, every insecurity, every disappointment I felt. And when he couldn't, I felt like that was failure. But my husband was never meant to carry the weight of the emotional work that God called me to carry myself. Healing my own heart, that made me lighter to love. And that gave our marriage room to breathe. And number 3, I stopped treating respect like it was something he had to earn. Okay, this changed everything, because respect given only when it's deserved is not respect. It's a reward. Real respect is a decision. And when he feels respected in his home, he rises. The day I stopped asking, is he being the husband I want, and started asking, am I being the wife I vowed to be, that's when our marriage took off. Marriage changed for me and for my husband when I stopped trying to control the man that stood beside me, and I started becoming the woman I was called to be. So if you were in that same season, I encourage you to just really ask God what it is that he's trying to get from you out of this marriage. Who does he need you to be for this kingdom? And go be her. Bye for now. I had no business calling myself a wife in year 1 of my marriage. I had the title, but I did not have the understanding. I said I do without truly understanding what I was agreeing to, and my marriage paid for it. I thought being in love was enough to make me a good wife. I was wrong. And it took my marriage showing me exactly who I was. The good, the bad parts of me I didn't even want to look at before I could become who God called me to be as a wife. So here are 3 things that changed from year 1 to now, and I'm sharing this because I know somebody watching this who is exactly who I used to be. Number 1, I used to shut down instead of opening up. The moment the conversation got uncomfortable for me, or my husband said something that didn't sit right with me, I would go silent. And I thought that silence was strength. I had to learn that a wife who cannot communicate cannot connect, and a marriage that cannot communicate cannot survive. Number 2, I was proud. Listen, if my husband pointed out something that was wrong within me, I'd be like, he ain't talking about me. My immediate response was, there's no way I'm doing anything wrong. Pride will blind you to the very things that are slowly destroying your marriage. And I was blind. I had to learn that being correctable, it is not a weakness. It is one of the most powerful things a wife can be, a person can be. And number 3, I felt so inadequate as a wife that I genuinely felt like my husband deserved someone better than me. I didn't know my role. I didn't know my purpose. And I felt like I was failing him constantly. And I had to learn that God did not make a mistake when he chose me for my husband. He knew exactly who my husband needed. I just had to grow into her. The wife who you are today isn't who you have to remain. Growth is not optional in marriage. It's required. It's mandatory. Every hard season, every tough conversation, every moment that you wanted to give up was God shaping you into who he called you to be. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too far gone. You're just still growing. And so am I. So go be her. Bye for now. A wife who doesn't respect her husband is a wife who does not trust God. And I know that's going to make some of you uncomfortable. Good. It made me uncomfortable too, because I had to realize that my disrespect wasn't just hurting my husband. It was showing God exactly how much I trusted him with my marriage. I think a lot of us go through similar things in our marriages in different ways. Like, we love our husbands, we love God, but we have never connected our respect for our husband directly to our trust in God. I know I hadn't until my marriage showed me. So let me share with you 3 things I learned about respect from my own marriage, because this didn't come from a book. This came from my own experience. Number 1, I used to think that respect was something my husband had to earn based upon how he made me feel. Respect is not a feeling, okay? It is a decision. And the reason I make this decision is because my respect for him was never just between me and him, but between me, him, and God. Ephesians 5:33 doesn't give me conditions. It gives me a command. And I had to decide if I trusted God enough to obey it. Number 2, I used to think that respecting my husband meant agreeing with everything that he said and every decision that he made. I had to understand that respect does not mean agreement. It means honoring his position, even when you see things differently, because you can have a private conversation. You cannot publicly undermine the man that God placed as the head of your home. Number 3, I used to think that my husband's leadership was optional based upon how well I thought he was leading. I had to learn that a respected husband leads better. And I didn't truly believe that until I got out of his way and watched God move through him. What I thought was me holding him accountable was actually me blocking what God was trying to do. Ephesians 5:33 doesn't say respect your husband when he leads well. It doesn't say respect your husband when he deserves it. It says respect him. Because God knew that respecting your husband was never really about your husband, but about your obedience to God. Wifehood will require you to do hard things, things that your flesh will fight against. But God never called us to be comfortable. He called us to be obedient. Okay? So go be her. My husband was distant and checked out, and if I'm being honest, I was the reason. Like, I spent so much time wondering and trying to figure out why he felt so far away. But then I stopped looking at him and I started looking at me. My husband did not check out of our marriage. He checked out of the version of me that I was giving to him. And I do not blame him. In the moment I realized and accepted that, everything changed, because not because he changed first, but because I started to be intentional about who I was showing up as for him. And the fact of the matter is, he didn't drift on his own. Somewhere along the way, the wife that he fell in love with stopped intentionally showing up for him, and I was her. So for 30 days, this is where I started the My Man Challenge, and I was like, you know what? I'm really just going to hone in, focus, and serve my husband. You know, be intentional, be everything that I need to be in this marriage. And these are the 3 things that I took away that changed everything for me. The first thing, I stopped focusing on how I felt and started being intentional about what he needed from me. Because sometimes I didn't feel like serving him. I didn't feel like letting things go. I didn't feel like being patient. But your feelings are not a good enough reason for you to withhold from your husband what God has called you to give him. Second thing, I stopped praying for my husband to be better, and I started being better. Like, I was praying for God to fix in me what needed to be fixed. I started journaling every day, and I'm literally asking God to give me the strength and wisdom to be who he created me to be in this marriage. Because I realized I was asking God to fix my husband when God was trying to develop me. And the third thing, I stopped being his roommate and started intentionally becoming his refuge. I prioritized peace. I created a space for him to come home and exhale. I supported his goals. I showed up for him in intimacy and communication and quality time. I became the wife that he needed, not the wife I felt like being that day. Just like that, 30 days, he was back. And it's not because I manipulated him, not because I was performing for him, but because when a wife shows up with intention, purpose, and consistency, her husband sees that. He feels it and he responds to it. So if your husband feels distant right now, I just need you to hear me. You know, before you walk away, before you throw in the towel, before you think he's the problem, give it 30 days. 30 days of showing up, being intentional, whether you feel like it or not. That's exactly what the My Man Challenge is, 30 days of being intentional. I did not create this for y'all. I created it because I needed it at the time. You know, my husband needed it, our marriage needed it, and it really did completely transform how I view myself as a wife, how I view marriage, how I even view my husband. Wifehood is a calling, but you have to be willing to show up for it. And if you are willing, go be her. Bye for now. Nobody sat me down and told me what marriage will require of me. They'll tell you to find a good man, they'll tell you to know your worth, but nobody tells you that a great marriage requires you to become somebody that you've never been before. I walked into my marriage as a whole woman, and I had no idea that I still had so much to learn. And I think that's where a lot of us are. We're not bad wives or bad husbands, we're just unprepared ones. And there's a big difference between the two. Because marriage will expose you, not to embarrass you, but to grow you. It'll show you where you are selfish, areas where you are prideful, where you're impatient. It'll show you things that you never even knew about yourself before saying I do. Proverbs 27:17, it says iron sharpens iron, and sometimes the sharpening doesn't feel good. It feels like friction. It feels like conflict. But God is using your marriage to refine you into being the person that he called you to be. So I stopped asking, like, why is this so hard? And I started asking, what is this teaching me? And that question alone unlocked 3 of my biggest growth areas in my marriage and as a wife. And I want to share that with you guys. First, it taught me patience. Not the kind where you just wait and sit quietly, but the kind where you trust God's timing over your own feelings. It's hard, but it's rewarding. 2, it taught me humility. I had to learn that being right was never, ever more important than being unified. I've said it once, I said it before. How can you win against someone on the same team as you? My marriage is not a courtroom. It taught me purpose. And showing up as his wife means showing up as his safe place, his aid, his peace. It's filling in the spaces that God specifically and intentionally designed me to fill. Nobody else can do what I was made to do for him. That's why this is not just a role, it is a calling. So if you walked into your marriage whole and you still felt like something was missing, you did not fail. You didn't fail. You just haven't been taught yet. Wifehood is a calling. Anything that the Lord calls us for, he equips us for. But you have to be willing to become her. So go be her. Bye for now. I was a good woman and a terrible wife at the same time. Nobody told me that being a good woman wasn't enough for marriage. And I love my husband with everything that I had, but it still was not working. I had the heart, I had the intention, but what I did not have was the understanding of what it actually meant to be a good wife, not just a good woman. Proverbs 14:1 says, a wise woman builds her home, but a foolish one tears it down with her own hands. I wasn't tearing my house down on purpose. I just didn't know how to build it right. So I just want to share with you guys 3 things that I used to struggle with as a wife versus what I do now. Number 1, I used to speak my mind, okay? Now I speak with purpose because not every single thought that I have needs to leave my mouth, especially to my husband. 2, I used to keep score. I was a scorekeeper. Go, look, with no shame. But now I keep covenant because marriage is not a competition. You know, we're working together and it's a commitment. So I'm committed to making this work. I used to wait to feel like a good wife. Like once my husband did whatever or acted a certain way to make me be this woman that I've always wanted to be, this wife I've always wanted to be, then I would be her. No. Now I choose to be one. I choose to be one because love is an action. It is not just an emotion. You know, I had to stop trying to be a good woman in my marriage and start becoming a good wife to my husband. Being a good woman, that's a gift. Being a good wife, that's practice. That is a decision that you make every single day. And if you're watching this and you feel the way that I used to feel once upon a time, you are not failing. I say it all the time, wifehood is a calling, and we know that anything that the Lord calls us to, the enemy tries to destroy. But if you follow me, you should have enough conviction to know something needs to change. So go be her. Bye for now.